Last Tuesday evening, I walked into my home office after a long day working late, the door ajar as usual. That's when I overheard Amanda's voice floating from the living room, unmistakably on speakerphone. Curious, I paused in the hallway, about to tell her I was ordering dinner, but then I caught Whitney's voice, their friend who always seemed to stir the pot. "So, did you try the fake emergency text today? Did he drop everything to come running?" Whitney teased. My hand froze on the doorframe. I swallowed hard and stayed quiet. Amanda, sounding uncertain, whispered, "What if he gets mad that it wasn't real?" Trish, another voice I recognized, chuckled. "That's the whole point. If he gets mad, you know he doesn't actually care. My ex never passed a single test I gave him." I stood there, invisible, as they plotted. This wasn't like the usual little tests, the 2 a.m. emergency text, the lost wallet drama, or the fake friend crisis. This was bigger. Amanda was planning to tell me she'd been offered a job in Boston, a fake job offer, meant to see if I'd beg her to stay. I clenched my jaw. For years I'd been unknowingly jumping through hoops, acting the perfect husband whenever a crisis, real or not, was thrown my way. I remembered the late-night panic call last month. I'd rushed home, heart pounding, only to find her calmly watching TV. The wallet she supposedly lost, found at Whitney's. The sudden car trouble, non-existent. And now, a whole new level. I sat down at my desk, hands gripping the edge. Seattle rental listings popped up on my screen. If Amanda wanted a game, I'd play it, but on my terms. I wouldn't confront her yet. I'd let her run her test, and I'd run one of my own. My phone buzzed. A message from Owen. "Need to talk. Lunch tomorrow?" I sighed. I needed backup. The next day, I met Owen at a Greasy Spoon in Ballard. He's been my mate since university, knows me better than most. As I spilled the whole saga, the overheard call, the pattern of fake crises, the Boston ruse, he just shook his head. "Mate, that's mental." "I know," I said, "but I'm going to let her do it. See what happens." "That's cold." "Is it? She's been lying to me for a year. Maybe it's time she found out what it's like when the test doesn't go her way." Owen nodded slowly. "Rachel's gonna be gutted. She adores Amanda." "Rachel doesn't know the real Amanda. No one does." Saturday morning, she appeared in the kitchen wearing that soft gray sweater, the one she always wore when she wanted to look vulnerable, but rehearsed it too much. Her hair was pinned back loosely, a few strands escaping, framing a face that looked almost fragile, but her eyes were sharp. "Greg, we need to talk." I nodded, setting down my tablet. "Sure. What's up?" She hesitated, then said, "I got offered a job in Boston. It's a big deal. Nearly double my salary, leadership role." "Boston? That's a 5-hour flight away." I blinked. "When do you start?" 4 weeks, she said, voice catching. I tried to keep calm. "And you want to take it?" "I don't know. I wanted to talk to you first." I swallowed. "Amanda, this is huge. You should celebrate." Her phone buzzed, a call from Whitney. She ignored it. "This isn't how it's supposed to go," she said, voice trembling. "Then how?" "You're supposed to react." "I am reacting. I'm proud of you." She was near tears. I wanted more. "Like what?" She stormed upstairs. Later, I caught her FaceTiming with some supposed Boston landlord. Trish's voice filtered through, her bathroom, with filters on, trying not to laugh. I waved. "That place looks nice. Good light." Amanda stared daggers at me. "I'm just trying to help," I said, retreating. 20 minutes later, she appeared in my doorway. "Don't you care I'm looking at apartments without you?" "Of course. You're gathering info. Smart." She looked away, phone buzzing nonstop. Sunday, we walked through Volunteer Park. Amanda tried a new angle. "Whitney says this could help me find myself without distractions." Distractions. Being in a relationship. I laughed softly. Boston might be good for that. She stopped. Why are you making this easy? Want me to make it hard? We walked on, silent. Wednesday night, she told me she'd accepted the job. 3 weeks. Earlier than she said. I set down my knife. You're moving across the country without really talking to me? She cried. I thought you'd come with me. I looked at her, tired. I can't just drop everything. My job's important too. She shook her head, sobbing. I wanted you to fight for us. I was fighting. For honesty. Thursday morning, Amanda looked exhausted. Maybe I was too quick. Maybe I can ask for more time. I poured coffee. You accepted. You can't just unaccept. Maybe I can save us. Does this marriage need saving? She had no answer. Friday, Owen, Rachel, Amanda, and I had dinner at the Walrus and the Carpenter. The tension was thick. Then Whitney and Trish appeared, uninvited. I stood. Actually, your perfect timing. The restaurant quieted as I called out their manipulations, the fake crises, the lies, the tests. Rachel looked at Amanda, shocked. Amanda's face crumbled. Whitney and Trish left, chased by Owen's glare. Days later, Amanda begged for forgiveness, promising change, cutting off Whitney and Trish. I moved out, stayed with Owen. She tried one last stunt, social media posts to make me jealous. I blocked her. 3 months later, I met Amanda in a cafe. She looked different, tired but grounded. I'm seeing a real therapist, she said. Good, I smiled. I hope you find peace. She hesitated. Did I destroy us? Yes. Not because of the tests, but because you never trusted love without proof. She nodded, tears glistening. As she left, my phone buzzed. A message from a woman Owen vouched for. Tomorrow, a stranger's call would pull me deeper into Amanda's past, her family's secrets and the roots of her fears. And I'd have to decide, am I ready for one last test? The next day, I was helping Owen fix a fence around his small garden in his cozy Ballard backyard when my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I nearly ignored it. Who calls a bloke out of the blue these days? But something nudged me to answer. Hello, this is Greg. Greg, hi. It's Jennifer, Amanda's sister. I blinked. I'd met Jennifer a couple of times, but she lived in Portland, and their relationship always seemed distant, polite at best. Jennifer, yeah? What's up? She sounded weary, like she hadn't slept in days. Amanda called me last night. She was hysterical, said you two were separating, maybe even divorcing. I sighed. We're separated. Divorce might come later. She said you think I won't talk to her. That's not true. You talk, but you don't say what she wants. I get that now. There was a pause, then she spoke softly. Greg, I didn't know about the tests. I frowned. Tests? Yeah. Amanda told me some things. The fake emergencies, the crisis calls. I kept asking why she was so desperate for proof. Eventually, she told me. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I rubbed my temples. Neither did I until recently. It's been a year of running on eggshells, trying to pass tests I didn't even know I was taking. Jennifer's voice cracked. Our mum did the same to our dad. She'd create drama just to see if he cared enough. It nearly destroyed them when I was a kid. Mum said Dad didn't fight hard enough, but it wasn't that simple. I swallowed hard. Amanda never told me that. I don't think she even realizes she learned the wrong lessons from their divorce, that men who don't fight are weak, don't love enough. The pieces clicked in my mind like a jigsaw puzzle finally revealing the picture. So that's the root of all this? Fear of abandonment passed down like a family heirloom? Jennifer sighed. Yeah, and it's a long road to unlearn that. I looked out at Owen's garden. the fence we'd just patched up. I can't be the one to fix it for her. I didn't call to ask you to, Jennifer said gently, just to say I understand why you left. And I don't blame you. After we hung up, I sat there staring at my phone, feeling the weight of it all settle around me like Seattle's infamous drizzle. Cold, persistent, and impossible to ignore. Amanda's childhood haunted by tests and mistrust, and now 4 years of marriage spent navigating a minefield I never knew existed. I pulled my jacket tighter, thinking about what I'd learned. Sometimes people don't test because they doubt others. They test because they don't trust themselves. And the hardest part, seeing that you can't always be the hero in someone else's story. Sometimes you have to step back and let them face their own battles. But little did I know, the next test was already waiting in the wings, one neither of us could have predicted. That evening, as twilight settled over Seattle's skyline, I found myself standing outside Amanda's house, the one we'd agreed to sell. The place felt heavy, like the walls themselves carried the residue of every fake emergency, every manipulated crisis. I ran a hand through my hair, trying to shake off the exhaustion that had settled deep in my bones. The front door creaked open, and Amanda stepped out, wrapped in a silk robe that caught the fading light just right. It wasn't a housecoat exactly. It was the kind of robe that whispered secrets, the kind you'd wear when you wanted to feel beautiful, but not quite be seen. Her bare feet barely made a sound on the porch. Toes painted a soft rose, the scent of lavender soap lingering around her. "Greg," she said softly, voice trembling like a fragile melody. "Can we talk?" I nodded, stepping back to let her out. We wandered down the path to the small garden at the front, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming rhododendrons. "I've been thinking," she started, eyes downcast, fingers twisting the robe's belt nervously. "About everything. About the tests, the lies. I know I broke us." I folded my arms, watching as she traced patterns on the weathered wooden fence with a fingertip. "You didn't just break us, Amanda," I said quietly. "You built a whole house of mirrors, and I was trapped inside, trying to find the real you." She looked up, lips parted, as if to say something, then closed her mouth tight. The vulnerability in her eyes was raw, but so was the desperation. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Not of losing you, but of losing myself. The part of me that doesn't need to prove love, that doesn't need to set traps." I swallowed hard. Maybe that's the real test, huh? Not whether I'd beg or chase, but whether you can find peace inside yourself. Her gaze flicked to mine, a flicker of hope mixed with doubt. "Do you think I can?" I shrugged, a half-smile tugging at my lips. "If you want to, maybe, but it's a long road, and you'll have to walk it alone for a while." Amanda's shoulders sagged, the fight draining out of her. "I don't know if I'm ready." "Well," I said, stepping back and letting the silence settle between us like a blanket, "sometimes the hardest part is just starting." As I turned to leave, a sudden chill ran down my spine. Somewhere deep in the shadows of the garden, a movement flickered. Too quick to be Amanda, too deliberate to be anything natural. I paused, heart hammering. Was it just my imagination? Or was someone else lurking, watching us from the dark? The night swallowed the garden whole, and with it the secrets we'd both been avoiding. I walked away, but the feeling stayed. A whisper of danger. A hint that the past wasn't done with us yet. And somewhere in the quiet corners of that house, a new game was already beginning. The next morning, rain drizzled softly against the windows of my small kitchen in Fremont. I sat nursing a cup of black coffee, the steam fogging my glasses as I scrolled through emails. My phone buzzed, a message from Amanda. Short, tense. "Can we meet? Need to talk." I hesitated. After last night's strange shadow in the garden, I wasn't sure if I wanted to dive back into the storm, but curiosity won. We agreed to meet at a quiet cafe a few miles away, a place called the Blue Lantern, known for its cozy booths and strong espresso. When I arrived, Amanda was already there, sitting alone in one of the corner seats by the rain-speckled window. She wore a deep emerald green blouse that hugged her figure just right, paired with dark skinny jeans and ankle boots polished to a shine. The blouse's plunging neckline hinted at a delicate lace camisole beneath, adding a subtle edge of elegance and a whisper of something more intimate without ever stepping over the line. Her hands wrapped around a steaming mug, fingers adorned with a simple silver ring, the one she never wore before. Her hair was swept over one shoulder, cascading in soft waves that caught the dim light like liquid silk. "Greg," she said, voice low but steady, "there's something I need to tell you, something I've been hiding." I leaned in, suddenly aware of the closeness between us, the faint scent of her vanilla perfume, the warmth radiating from her skin. "What is it?" I asked. She hesitated, biting her lower lip. "Whitney and Trish weren't just giving me bad advice. They were involved in more than just coaching. They've been manipulating me for their own gain." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "They have a whole network. They prey on women like me, women scared to lose control, to be alone. They feed off the drama, the chaos, and they push these tests not just for fun, but to keep us dependent, to keep me hooked." My mind raced. It explained so much, the constant crises, the fake emergencies, but also the way they always seem to know more than they should. "Why didn't you tell me before?" "I was scared," she admitted. "Scared that if I broke free, I'd lose everything. You, them, myself." I reached across the table, my fingers lightly brushing hers. "You're not alone in this, but you need to cut them out. For good." Amanda nodded, eyes glistening. "I'm ready to fight, to be real, but I don't know where to start." I squeezed her hand. "One step at a time." Outside, the rain picked up, drumming a steady rhythm against the window pane. Inside the cafe, in that small booth, something fragile began to mend, a tentative hope that maybe, just maybe, we could find a way back from the wreckage. But as we left, neither of us noticed the figure watching from across the street. A woman in a dark coat, phone pressed to her ear, eyes sharp and calculating. "Phase 2 is underway," she whispered into the receiver. And just like that, the game was far from over. That night, the streets of Ballard shimmered under slick rain, street lamps casting golden halos through the mist. I sat alone on my couch, nursing a whiskey glass that caught the dim light like a jewel. The house felt too quiet, almost suspiciously so. Amanda had left hours ago after our cafe meeting, promising she'd take the first step to sever ties with Whitney and Trish. But deep down, I knew better. My phone buzzed, an unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. "Greg," a silky voice purred. "Fancy a chat?" I froze. "Whitney." "What do you want?" I asked, voice low. "Oh, just to remind you, darling, that games have consequences." Her laugh was sharp, like shattered glass. "You think you can just cut us out? Amanda's tied to us far deeper than you know." I gritted my teeth. "She's done with your manipulations." Whitney chuckled darkly. "Has she? Or is she just playing her part? You're not as clever as you think." The line went dead. I slammed the phone down, heart racing. Whitney wasn't bluffing. There was more at stake here than just a messed-up marriage. Suddenly, footsteps echoed outside. I peered through the window blinds. No one. Just the rain, swirling leaves, and shadows. A chill crept up my spine. Outside, the street lamp flickered and died, plunging the block into near darkness. I grabbed the baseball bat from beside the door, because, you never know when you'll need one in Seattle, and moved cautiously toward the front door. Just as I reached for the handle, a soft knock, 2 quick taps. My breath caught. "Greg," Amanda's voice whispered from the other side. "Let me in, please." I opened the door to find her soaked, eyes wild and desperate. Her emerald blouse clung to her like a second skin, darkened by rain, collar askew. Her hair was plastered against her face, strands falling loose, framing a face pale but burning with urgency. "I couldn't stay," she gasped. "They're watching me. Whitney, Trish, they're not just toxic, they're dangerous." I pulled her inside, wrapping a blanket around her trembling shoulders. "What happened?" She shook her head, shivering. "They've got dirt on me, things I never told you, things that could ruin everything, and they're using it to control me." Her eyes locked onto mine, pleading. I swallowed hard. "We'll face it together." She nodded, but the tremor in her hands betrayed the storm inside. Later, as she finally drifted into restless sleep, I sat in the living room, replaying the night's events. Whitney's threat wasn't idle, and now the lines between love, manipulation, and danger were blurring into a shadowy maze with no clear exit. I glanced at the darkened window and whispered, "What have we stumbled into, Amanda?" Because one thing was certain, this was no longer just a test. It was a battle for survival. The next morning, the rain had finally stopped, leaving the city washed clean and shimmering under a pale gray sky. In the quiet of my small kitchen, I watched Amanda sip her tea, the warmth seeping into her hands. She wore a loose cream sweater that slipped off one shoulder, revealing the delicate curve of her collarbone. Her jeans were faded, frayed at the hems, and her feet were bare, toes curling against the cool hardwood floor. The softness of the moment was a sharp contrast to the tension that still hung between us. "I called the therapist," she said suddenly, breaking the silence. "The one you suggested. She's available next week." I nodded, relieved. "Good. Real help." Amanda looked up, eyes haunted. "I want to start fresh, Greg, but I don't know if I can escape Whitney and Trish's grip alone." I reached across the table, brushing a stray lock of hair behind her ear. "You're not alone. I'm with you." Her lips quivered into a small, grateful smile. "Thanks." Just then, my phone buzzed again. This time, a text from an unknown number. "Stop digging or the truth comes out." I felt a cold rush of dread. I showed Amanda. Her face paled. "They're watching us. They want me scared, controlled." I clenched my fists. "Not on my watch." Determined, I called Owen. After a few rings, his familiar voice answered. "Greg, everything okay?" "Not really. Whitney and Trish are threatening us." "I think they've crossed a line." Owen's voice hardened. "I'll come over. We need a plan." Within the hour, Owen was at my place, his rugged frame filling the doorway. He tossed me a set of keys. I arranged for a cabin up north, off the grid. No phones, no internet. "We can lay low while you and Amanda figure this out." I looked at Amanda, whose eyes shone with a mix of fear and hope. "Let's go," she whispered. That afternoon, we packed light, Amanda slipping into a soft navy jacket that hugged her slender frame, her hair tied back in a messy ponytail. The drive north was tense but quiet, the landscape shifting from urban sprawl to dense evergreens and misty hills. At the cabin, the only sounds were the whisper of wind through the pines and the crackle of the wood stove. For the first time in weeks, I saw Amanda relax, her shoulders dropping, a genuine smile flickering. But as night fell, I caught her staring out the window, shadows playing across her face. "I'm scared, Greg," she confessed. "What if they never let me go?" I pulled her close. "They don't get to decide that." "We do." Outside, the forest loomed dark and endless. Somewhere beyond the trees, the past was closing in, and I knew this was just the beginning of a fight far bigger than either of us imagined. The first morning at the cabin dawned crisp and clear, sunlight filtering through towering firs and dappling the wooden floor with warm patches. Amanda stirred beside me, her hair wild and unruly against the pillow, a few loose strands curling around her flushed cheeks. She stretched languidly, the soft fabric of her cream tank top riding up just enough to reveal the curve of her waist, a hint of vulnerability wrapped in quiet strength. I brewed coffee on the small stove, the rich aroma filling the tiny space. Amanda wrapped herself in a knitted cardigan, the sleeve slipping over her slender hands as she sipped her cup, eyes distant. "We can't stay hidden forever," she murmured, voice barely above the crackle of the fire. "I know," I said, sitting beside her. "But here, at least, we're safe. For now." She nodded, then hesitated. "There's something I haven't told you." My heart tensed. "What?" She looked away, fiddling with the silver pendant at her neck, a delicate key on a thin chain. "Whitney and Trish. They recorded some of our conversations, things I said in panic, things that could ruin me if they leaked." I frowned. "Blackmail?" Amanda swallowed hard. "Yes, and worse. They're threatening to send the recordings to my boss, to friends, even to your colleagues." I clenched my jaw. "They won't get away with this." She bit her lip, eyes shimmering. "I'm scared, Greg. Scared they'll destroy everything." I reached for her hand, squeezing gently. "We'll fight back." That afternoon, I pulled out my laptop, tapping into old contacts from work, friends in IT, security experts. I needed someone who could trace the source of the leaks, someone who could shut down whatever twisted network Whitney and Trish had built. As the sun dipped low, Amanda and I paced the cabin's creaky porch. The air smelled of pine and damp earth, the silence heavy but comforting. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught my eye, a shadow slipping behind a nearby tree. "Did you see that?" I whispered. Amanda nodded, panic rising. "They found us!" I grabbed the old hunting rifle leaning in the corner, not because I wanted to use it, but because it was a reminder that we weren't helpless. We need a plan, and fast. That night, under a sky blanketed with stars, I realized this wasn't just about a broken marriage or toxic friendships anymore. It was a war, and the enemy was closer than we thought. In the dim light of dawn, the cabin felt both sanctuary and prison. Amanda sat curled on the worn armchair, wrapped in a cashmere shawl that grazed the tops of her bare ankles, the soft fabric contrasting with the tension etched across her delicate features. Her eyes, usually sharp and guarded, were clouded with exhaustion, shadows darkening beneath them like storm clouds threatening rain. I paced the creaky floorboards, the weight of the situation pressing down like the heavy fog that clung to the pines outside. My phone was silent. No new threats, no updates from the contacts I'd reached out to. Silence, for once, felt uneasy. Amanda looked up, her voice barely above a whisper. "I keep wondering, why me? Why did I let them in so deep?" I stopped and faced her, taking in the way her fingers nervously twisted the silver key pendant at her throat, a symbol now tangled with betrayal and fear. "Because sometimes we're so desperate to be loved that we don't see the traps until it's too late," I said softly. She let out a bitter laugh. "Or maybe I just wanted someone to fight for me without having to ask." I stepped closer, brushing a damp strand of hair behind her ear. "I've been fighting all along, Amanda. You just didn't realize it." Suddenly, a sharp knock rattled the cabin door, echoing through the silence like a gunshot. We froze. "Who is it?" I called, heart pounding. No answer. The knock came again, more urgent. I grabbed the flashlight and stepped outside, the cold air biting at my skin. The porch was empty, except for a small envelope pinned to the doorframe with a rusted nail. I tore it open. Inside was a single photo, grainy, black and white, showing Amanda leaving the cafe yesterday. But someone was standing just behind her, half hidden in shadows. A note scrawled in messy handwriting. "We're always watching." My blood ran cold. Back inside, Amanda's breath hitched. They're closer than we thought. I locked the door, checked the windows, and pulled the curtains tight. This isn't just about tests or manipulation anymore. It's about control. She nodded, eyes fierce for the first time in days. Then let's take it back. The night pressed in around us like a tightening noose, but beneath the fear, a spark ignited, a promise that whatever came next, we wouldn't go down without a fight. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying secrets we were only beginning to unravel. The following evening, the cabin was cloaked in shadows, the soft glow of candlelight flickering against the rough wooden walls. Amanda sat at the small table, dressed in a deep burgundy blouse that contrasted beautifully with her porcelain skin. The subtle curve of her neck was exposed by the blouse's open collar, and a delicate silver bracelet shimmered on her wrist as she nervously traced its links. Her gaze was steady, but heavy with the weight of everything we'd endured. I stood near the window, watching the dense forest beyond, the silhouettes of towering pines swaying in the chilly breeze. My mind raced, piecing together the tangled web Whitney and Trish had spun around us. They weren't just toxic influences, they were puppeteers pulling strings from the shadows. Amanda broke the silence. I found something. Emails, texts, evidence of their manipulation, threats, even attempts to hack into my work account. I turned, surprised by the fierce determination in her eyes. Good. We need proof. She nodded. I want to go public, expose them, but I'm scared. I crossed the room, taking her hands in mine. You're stronger than you think, and I'll be right beside you. Suddenly, a sharp ping from my phone shattered the quiet. A new message flashed on the screen. Last chance. Walk away or everything you love gets destroyed. I clenched my fists, anger and protectiveness surging. They're desperate. Amanda's voice was steady. Then it's time to put an end to this. We spent the night drafting emails, gathering every shred of evidence, preparing to send it to the authorities, the press, anyone who could help dismantle the twisted empire Whitney and Trish had built. As dawn approached, exhaustion pulled at us, but neither of us dared sleep. Outside, the wind howled through the trees, a haunting chorus to the battle we were about to face. Just as the first light crept over the horizon, a soft knock echoed from the porch. My heart stopped. I opened the door cautiously. Standing there was Owen, rain dripping from his jacket, eyes grave but resolute. I heard, he said simply. I'm here. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Amanda smiled, a flicker of hope breaking through the storm. But as we stepped inside, the distant crack of a twig snapped through the woods. We weren't alone, and the final test, one none of us expected, was about to begin. The tension in the cabin was electric, every creak of the floorboards and rustle of the wind outside setting my nerves on edge. Amanda stood near the window, her emerald blouse catching the early morning light, sleeves rolled up to reveal slender forearms trembling with a mix of fear and determination. Her lips were pressed into a thin line, but the fire in her eyes was unmistakable. Owen paced restlessly, his broad shoulders tense beneath a worn leather jacket, fists clenched as if ready to punch through the walls themselves. I gripped the old hunting rifle more out of habit than hope, feeling the weight of it grounding me. Suddenly the power flickered and died, plunging us into darkness. The cabin's only light came from the dying embers in the fireplace, casting long, dancing shadows that seemed to close in around us. A low, deliberate knock sounded at the door. Slow, measured, impossible to ignore. Owen exchanged a glance with me. I'll check. The door creaked open to reveal a figure cloaked in black, face hidden beneath a hood. The air grew colder, the silence thick with menace. Looking for this? The stranger's voice was cold, holding up a small USB drive. Amanda stepped forward, voice steady despite the icy tension. What do you want? The figure smiled, a thin, cruel curve. Just to remind you that some games have consequences. You've stirred a hornet's nest. I raised the rifle, heart pounding. Get out! Now! Not so fast, the stranger said, dropping the USB onto the table before disappearing into the woods with a whisper of footsteps. Amanda grabbed the drive, hands shaking. What's on it? Owen plugged it into my laptop. A folder popped up. Videos, audio recordings, messages, proof of Whitney and Trish's manipulation, but also other secrets, darker things. Blackmail material involving people we didn't know, powerful people. My stomach churned. This goes beyond us, I said grimly. They've built an empire on lies, fear, control. Amanda looked at me, eyes fierce. Then we burn it all down. Together we compiled everything, sending it to trusted journalists and authorities. The fallout was swift. Whitney and Trish's network exposed, arrests made, headlines screaming betrayal and scandal. But as the dust settled, I found Amanda standing alone on the porch, staring out at the endless forest. I'm free, she whispered. But at what cost? I joined her, wrapping an arm around her trembling shoulders. Some scars never fade, I said softly. But real love isn't about passing tests. It's about standing together when the world tries to break you. She nodded, tears glistening but a genuine smile breaking through. As we watched the sunrise paint the sky in hues of gold and rose, my phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number. You think it's over? The game has only just begun. I looked at Amanda, heart pounding. The greatest test of all was still ahead.